calamari. More like calasari.
I need a little bit more.
Hello, and welcome back to the sixth and final cooking segment for Monster Gourmet, Fantastic Beasts, and How to Eat Them. Today, we're going to be making... Today, we're going to be making Flayer Calamari. You will need flour, cornstarch and cornmeal, cayenne pepper and paprika, squid, a lemon, parsley, and Parmesan cheese. Our strategy here is going to be to deep fry it. Basically, it's really hard to actually find any sort of calamari in the United States that's not deep fried, and we're going to carry on in that weird Italian-American tradition and fry our calamari. Now, this is not enough calamari for the whole group, but it's enough to demonstrate the techniques we'll be using here. Most of my calamari is in this thing. I've been marinating it in buttermilk and eggs. So I've got a quart of buttermilk and 3 eggs in here, and I've just been letting that sit. I prepped that this morning. And the reason I'm doing that is because calamari is a very rubbery substance. And if you don't let it sit in something slightly acidic for a while, it's going to be too rubbery to deal with. So the lactic acid in the buttermilk is going to tenderize that and help us deal with that texture a little bit. So your calamari will come in 2 types. It will come in the tubes, which is the body of the squid, and the tentacles, which is basically its face. The tentacles are my favorite bit. They're all stringy and they get a really nice crunch when you put them in the fryer. And these we can actually just put in our buttermilk mixture as is. Doesn't that smell good? This technique, as far as I'm aware, is due to Jamie Oliver. It's a little bit different than what you'll usually see for calamari, but we're going to slit it down the side. If you let it tenderize all day in the buttermilk, then these are good to just go in. If you're at a little bit of a last-minute rush like we are right now, you're going to have to do a little bit of extra work for them. So I'm going to take a regular old butter knife, you want something that's not too sharp, and we're going to score it. Crosswise motions, across, just nice and gentle. And remember, you don't want to chop through. Just get that nice chessboard pattern. The next thing I'm going to do is start my oil going. So I'm going to take this canola oil I've used to fry already. You can see it's a little bit darker. I have filtered it, but you can't ever get everything. And that's not quite enough, so I'm gonna fill up with fresh. I'm gonna turn it up to about medium-high. The last thing we need to do is we need to put together our flour dip. So the flour dip will take the calamari out of the buttermilk mixture, dip it directly into the flour, and then our plan here is to drop it right into the pot. You don't want to let the calamari sit with the flour on it because that will let the flour get sodden and gross and soggy. Not what you want. You want it to go straight, buttermilk, flour, pot. So we're going to have a nice little assembly line set up over there, but we need to assemble our flour mixture first. So let's go ahead and do that. 2 cups of flour, and then about a cup each of cornstarch and cornmeal. Mix this up a little bit. And I like a pie plate here because it's wide enough that it'll contain all of it, but it's shallow enough that you can really work with it. The last thing that you need to add to this is a good dusting of paprika, a little bit of cayenne pepper, probably about a teaspoon of salt, some reasonable amount of fresh ground pepper, and that'll give us a really nice flavor to this breading. Kick it up just a small notch. So we're about ready to go. Our oil is hot, our assembly line is prepared. We can start putting stuff into this oil and frying it up. Now I'm going to show you how I know that the oil is ready to go. So this trick is used if you don't have a high temperature thermometer. So I've got a kitchen thermometer, it only goes up to 300 degrees. And when you're cooking with oil, the whole point of oil, one of the big advantages is it can go really hot. So you want your oil somewhere between 350 and 375 degrees. The temperature is key. Any hotter than that, it'll start to smoke and impart bad flavors to your food and also maybe catch your apartment on fire. Any colder than that, and your food will get soggy and gross. We don't want either of those options, so we've got a very careful target range. Now, you might be asking, how are we going to get that target range if we don't have a high heat thermometer? Well, the answer is with a wooden spoon. This is a trick that somebody figured out at some point. Turns out you can take your wooden spoon and stick it in, and the oil should bubble around it, and that means we're good to go. The key thing is to avoid splashes. So you might be tempted to chuck your squid in from across the room. That is definitely going to cause a big splash. That's not what you want. What we're actually going to do is just drop it in from right over the oil, and that will let it slide in, no splash, no chance of me going to the hospital. So take a bit of squid, let it dip off, and then we'll do it in the flour, shake it a little bit, and just drop it right in. So you're going to want your squid to go for about 2.5 minutes. Any longer, they'll be overdone. Any less, they won't be quite done enough. And the other thing that we'll note is that you want to do small batches. If you do large batches, then when you put the squid in, the cold squid will reduce the temperature of your oil too much, and you'll go past that target bottom temperature and not get a good cooking experience. You can also see that our spoon is not bubbling nearly as quickly now as it was before. We need to give it a little bit of time to come back up to temperature. So that's why you're doing small batches. Small batches is key with anything like this. And as we let our oil heat back up, we're going to season them. So a dusting of salt, because what's fried food without salt? A little bit of parsley. Could have gotten that a little bit finer minced. And just a dusting of Parmesan. I'll tell you, there's not a whole lot I love more in this world. That sound of bubbling hot oil with a little bit of delicious squid inside it. So usually at this point everything's in the oven, but with calamari that's about all there is to it. So these are going to be best right out of the fryer. Serve them to your friends steaming hot. That is what I intend to do right now. They're sitting there behind me. So I'm going to plate these. We will put together some sort of a mayonnaise-based dipping sauce, and we'll serve them and eat them. And I will continue standing here frying these up and sort of assembly lining them. It's going to be great.
Camera on me. Can't wait to eat these. Can't wait to eat these ink boys. Can we get it quiet so I can get this line? Can we get it quiet? Camera on me.
Come on, Logan.